Welcome to the Mile High Podcast with your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. I'm super thrilled to have you here and also super thrilled to have our guest here, which I'll introduce in just a moment. First of all, as we are broadcasting from 5,280 feet, mile high territory, wherever you're listening, viewing in the world, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss any mile high tick. In that way, we get to have you continue to get all the top tick information from us. And secondly, make sure you register to you be in mile high territory in September of 2024. I can't believe I'm going to say this, for Mile High 12. Which is where you want to be in September. So you can rise up to Mile High, and that's at riseuptomilehigh.com as well. You'll get the details. And Mel Krug, who is one of the people who I really adore and think so highly of for all these years since we met. I don't know, it was 2015 or 2016 since we've known each other, something around then.
I think even before that.
Really? I'm that old. Okay. And after she discovered Network Spinal, she helped her overcome some of her personal health challenges, and it helped her inspire to found Inspire Life Chiropractic Center in 2017, and she's helped hundreds of women and families. I would venture to say probably thousands over the years. Hundreds is probably an understatement, and help clients in different areas, privately, in and out of the profession as well. And thank you for joining us today, Mel, Dr. Mel.
Thanks, Danny. I am having a moment where I'm so honored to be here because you are such a huge mentor of mine, and I really look up, and you have been a huge support of me. And I'm having a moment where I was brought back to my first seminar with you. I think it was 2014, my first.
No, that long ago?
2014.
Wow.
So almost 10 years is when we met in Davenport, Iowa. I think I drove down as a student. And so I'm just having a moment of coming full circle of like, I'm just honored to be here.
I remember that in Davenport, Iowa, because the first time I ever did an event in Davenport, Iowa. And it was like an experience of just being in Davenport. I remember the crew of you that drove down from Northwestern. I think you, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it was such a fun group to meet, and also to see you at Mile High. You've been Mile High how many times?
Gosh, I mean, it's got to be at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it's more than that, because I think it was like Mile High 3 or 4 was the first one you were at, and I don't think you've missed.
I was a student. No,
yeah,
I was
I know.
a student, and I remember my husband and I, the first Mile High we went to, my husband and I had just come out of camping in Glacier National Park for a week, and we were smelly and we were dirty, and we rolled up at, I think it was still at some fancy hotel, it's always at a nice hotel, right? And we're just full of dirt, and like we haven't showered in 5 days. We've been living in the wilderness, and we're like, we're here for the conference.
So it's pretty much like any chiropractic student.
Yeah, exactly. And I brought my husband. My husband's not even a chiropractor. He's an engineer, and he even came to Mile High, which is really cool. So it's been a while.
Cool. Yeah, I think it was Mile High 3, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes way back. Now, actually, let's start with this, because we go way back, but there's others that don't go way back with you. So first, what inspired you? I'm probably going to end up using that word a bunch. What inspired you to find your way into the chiropractic realm?
Yeah, I think it's important for the audience to know that I did not grow up with chiropractic. My parents were not chiropractors. I didn't even know what chiropractic was until I was in undergrad at the University of Minnesota. And, when you experience something and you put the pieces together, like you have this moment, and then you realize all these moments in life were guiding you to that moment. That was chiropractic for me. So when I was in undergrad, I played high-level rugby, and I experienced a shoulder injury at the time, and I was playing all Midwest, all American. And it was to the point where I went from feeling like I was 20 years old and on fire and playing rugby and doing my thing to feeling like I was 80 years old. I couldn't sleep laying down. I suffered an AC tear in my shoulder. I couldn't breathe unless I sat up. So I had to sleep sitting up in a recliner for 2 weeks. And
Wow.
basically my life, the thing that gave me a lot of joy in life was taken away from me. Like sports were my outlet because I grew up with a lot of instability in my family. You know, my parents are divorced. I experienced, you know, sexual assault when I was younger. And it wasn't until that moment, basically the pain and the experience woke me up. Thankfully, I'm very grateful for that moment, right? And one of my friends at the time said, hey, you should go see a chiropractor. They can probably help you with your shoulder and your neck. I was like, okay. So I went to this chiropractor, and this is nothing against this chiropractor. I love them dearly, but it was okay, right? Didn't really do an analysis. They just kind of adjusted everything in my spine, and you know, that was it. And I got better, but there were still things recurring in my life. You know, I didn't realize I had low back pain and dealing with really severe menstrual cycles from a young age, and all this like emotional stuff I had suppressed. And so my other friend and my rugby coach at the time at the University of Minnesota said, hey, there's other forms of chiropractic. And I was like, what are you talking about? Isn't it just, this is the thing, right? They're like, no, there's other forms, and you should go see this guy. And I said, okay. So, you know, me being a student, loving to learn, I went to, at the time, I didn't even know what the technique was, but he was an upper cervical practitioner. Now I know that, Blair upper cervical. And before he even touched my spine, he educated me on the vital importance of the nervous system, and how the nervous system is how we filter our life and how we live our life. And unless we get to the underlying cause, we're simply just going to be scratching the surface. And so before he even did an analysis, did x-rays, checked my spine, and eventually adjusted me, toggle recoil, he poured into me this wisdom. And that moment of that health talk shifted my entire reality and my paradigm of how I lived my life. And lo and behold, after a few months of care, my shoulder got better, my low back pain got better, my emotional well-being got better, my menstrual cycles got better. There were things happening that I was like, wait, how is this? Like, I didn't realize like this was possible. And so then fast forward, you know, I have another chiropractic journey with Network Spinal. We can get into that, but I'm so grateful for that moment that someone spoke up and said, hey, there's something different for you, and you should go check this out, because they knew that the principles of chiropractic, right? They knew this chiropractor honored the principles, honored the vitalistic model, rather than just, you know, this model over here, nothing wrong with that, but there's more different over here. It's just different. So then I chose to go to chiropractic school after that, because it radically changed my life. And not just from a physical perspective, but I just felt so much more emotionally free. My mental health got better. I just started resolving these things in my life that felt much more effortless, and life felt much less hard, so to speak.
And this is even, and to just be clear, that's from the upper cervical practitioner you started seeing. Is that right? Yeah. So it's amazing when chiropractic is practiced in such a way, the person actually analyzes the spine fully, and locates and is focused on adjusting to free the mental impulse, as compared to a musculoskeletal focus. And people can have that with a musculoskeletal focus too, and it's just different. You know, it's kind of more less random and more planned. We'll say it that way. Now, with that, walking into from that journey, or through that journey that you're starting, how was it transitioning to the world of a school at it was Northwestern, right? Right.
Yep, Northwestern. I laugh because a lot of people are like, wow, you know your philosophy, and you know the principles of chiropractic. Like, how did you come out of Northwestern? And again, I'm not about bashing people. It's just different.
Right.
They're like, how did you come out of Northwestern and like understand these things? I'm like, one, I invested a lot of time and energy into the philosophy, into communicating about the philosophy and understanding it at a depth that we did not get in Northwestern. So I went to philosophy club. I was the president eventually of the philosophy club. I became the president of the Network Spinal Club. I had my own experience with being introduced to Network Spinal in school that radically shifted my life again. And so I feel, and having mentors like you and other people that I just followed, I went to seminars, I went to free talks, I went to Zoom things like this. I listened to podcasts because my life was radically altered. And I said, I want to know how to do that. I want to know how to be the best. I want to know how to not only deliver the goods when it comes to the art of chiropractic, but also communicating it, also knowing how to market it authentically, knowing how to share it with people. And so I like to joke that I became a seminar junkie because I wasn't getting it in school. And to be honest, I'm almost grateful that I didn't get it in my classes because it drove me to seek it elsewhere. I became that seeker, right? It drove me to find it and work for it and actually understand it because I wasn't getting that in just my regular classes. So that transition for me, while starting a business is a wild experience, as you guys know, and a lot of listeners know, I feel a lot of what I did in school helped me successfully start my practice because I chose to, instead of go out on the weekends, right, and party, a lot of my classmates did that. I was sitting, I was studying, I was reading the green books, I was driving down to Davenport, Iowa in a car full of 6 people, right? So that transition, although it was challenging, it allowed me to really be like, all right, Mel, you invest in this. This is time. Like, this is the calling. It's time to rise up. And until you're in business, you're not necessarily going to know those challenges. So that's why I recommend students, like, you've got to learn from your mentors and start thinking like a doctor now, start thinking like a business owner now, if that's something you choose to do. Because when you get out, the world changes. And sometimes you get smacked in the face. Sometimes you get, bumped around a little bit like a rugby player, but those are moments and challenges that are there for you, and they're helping you grow and reminding you of the bigness that lives within.
And I have to ask this because I have a certain answer that I think is the answer, but I want to see what you say, which is being involved with sports that help you as a business owner.
100%.
Why do you say that?
I started playing organized sports when I was 5 years old, and it allowed me to become coachable. I am a confident person, and I have to sometimes check my ego. And having coaches and being in sports, number one, it allowed me to become coachable. So those of you students who are on fire and new doctors, also be coachable, because people like Danny and Rochelle and the people that you listen to, they've got wisdom and experience in the field. So humble yourself, one. So it allowed me to become coachable. Number two, it taught me the power of learning how to be with resistance and learning how to become resilient when challenges emerge, right? When you're training on the field or you're training in practice, you've got to overcome the fatigue, the exhaustion. When it's the 70th minute of the rugby game, how are you showing up? When it's the last practice member of the day, how are you showing up? Are you showing up the same way you did at 9 a.m. in the morning as you are 6 p.m. in the evening? So it taught me that. It taught me how to have endurance mentally and physically. And it also taught me how to be in teams. I was often the captain of these teams. And it taught me how to understand that when you're running a team, when you're running a practice, and you have a lot of different personalities, you have a lot of different ways of working with people and different gifts that people have, it teaches you how to navigate that differently. So for those of you who are athletes, don't be afraid to draw upon that and just change the form, right? Draw upon your gifts, draw upon what you've learned as an athlete, and practice can be like athletics sometimes. So I would say those are the 3 things. And I'm glad you asked that question. That's a really good question. And I draw upon that often. My highest value is health and teaching. So being an athlete within that really, really has helped me grow my practice sustainably too.
Yeah. So now, that being said, since you mentioned being knocked around, has practice just been effortless and easy and all pretty?
No.
And why do you say that?
I think it's important to, and I'm a very transparent person, right? I'm all about sharing the gifts, the breakthroughs, and it's also important, I think, for students and young doctors in the profession. And I'm still a young doctor. I'm still learning. I still learn from you guys every day.
I'm still learning, just so you know.
Yeah,
I had things that happened this week that I thought I'd seen everything, but things that never happened before. So
and
I had to talk with our associates about, so.
Yep. How long have you been in practice, Danny? Like what? Almost 30 years?
Like 27 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And there's,
I
guess
think
what? There's bad days.
there is bad days. Like
Or
there's,
hard days. I mean, I know
yeah,
that's surprising for you.
yeah. And there's like that's life, right? Like life
Right,
is a
exactly.
synthesis of like challenges and equally, you're supported at the same time. And so I think it's very important. I'm very transparent. If any of you follow me on social media, I'm very transparent about the hard days, and not to be like, woe is me, but rather just say, hey, here's behind the curtain. Like this is a challenging day. And not to mention that you're probably dealing with personal stuff too. You've got relationships, you might have kids, you might have parents who are struggling, you might have family members who are struggling with their mental health. I grew up in a family where my mom has struggled on and off with her mental health for a long time. And like I said, my parents got divorced at a young age, and that's created its own stuff. So I am very transparent that while yes, we can see the collection goals and the practice member goals and all of this, sometimes you don't see what happens behind the scenes. And I think it's important for us as mentors and leaders to share, hey, today was a tough day, but that does not mean that you are not worthy of rising into the challenge. That does not mean that you have to take it personally. That is simply life, right? Like the forest fires create the new growth for the forest. The resistance and the resilience that you experience in the gym is what builds the muscle fibers to become stronger. So if you can perceive and allow the challenges in your practice or whatever it is you're up to actually support you and grow you, and know that challenges are on, they're on the way, they're not in the way, they're simply on the way. If you can allow that to be your consciousness and practice, you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
And you mean practice is not like a Instagram reel
No.
feed? It's not what it is, or a Facebook feed. That's not what practice looks like.
Not at all. And yeah,
Just want to make sure, because
yeah,
I think especially young docs and students think that's the case.
yeah. And I think that's an interesting thing that I think you, like doctors like you and Rochelle, who have had a lot of experience in the field, who started where there was no social media, that's probably an interesting phenomena to experience, where that starts to emerge. And it's a form of marketing. It's great, it works, and it's a dopamine hit.
Right.
It's a highlight reel. And we have to remember, like with every highlight reel, there's a low light reel that someone may not be fully transparent with you.
Right.
So if you are a student and you're scrolling Instagram, you're scrolling your feed and you're seeing all these dopamine hits and all these highlights, just know that you're probably only seeing half of the picture. And I would recommend following mentors who are very
half. You're being generous.
well, something I want to like acknowledge you, Danny, is like I have seen you be so much more and I think you've always been this way, but I've seen you utilize social media in a way that you're transparent, and you're sharing the hard stuff that comes up personally. You're very open and vulnerable about your healing journey, and seeing that as a young practitioner, I cannot tell you how valuable that is, because I think vulnerability is the new form of leadership. And vulnerability does not mean you're weak or you're emotionally chaotic or you're all over the place, but rather you're opening up your heart to be like, look, I'm a human. I may be a doctor, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I'm a whatever role you're playing, but beneath that, you're a human being and a soul first. And I think when you can open up your heart, you will be surprised at how many people are actually like, man, I really feel that. Like I've gone through a similar challenge. So I just want to like be a mirror back to you of how much your vulnerability as someone I've really looked up to has helped me in practice, and like even get like emotional about it. Like it just means a lot.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I think that authenticity is in. And and you can even say there has to be authentic, TIC, right? And people see so much of a show, and who has time for that? Like to put on a facade, and that it's not real, and it's kind of, yeah, it's obvious. So and people might like that for a little bit, but eventually you realize that you need real in your life. And there's so many people that put things on social media or their practice when it's like, this is not what their practice is like. or their life is like. So, and I'm glad that you are doing that in your world, and that you want people to be aware of that. And I know that you think, or you say, I've heard you say this, that you've learned, and I don't remember who maybe taught you this, but that business is an inside out game, and why do you say that?
I've probably heard that from many mentors, probably, you and Rochelle a lot too. Your business is a reflection of your consciousness, especially if you're the leader, you're the founder, maybe you're an associate that's rising into higher levels of leadership within your team. Your business will not transcend the leader's consciousness. And that starts from within. Your perceptions about your self-worth, your perceptions around your self-value, the gifts that you have to bring. And so everything that you create or birth into the world or do around you first comes from your being.
Mm-hmm.
And although, yes, we have our parts of our life, right? We have personal, we have professional. My challenge and question to the audience is like, who do you think is the common denominator of that? And, oftentimes something I've found in practice where I'm like, oh, the numbers are doing weird things, or like practice members seem to be showing up late, or, stuff happens, right? Like humans will human. And rather than me being like, it's something wrong with them, I have to ask, what am I and who am I being in this? And what in me is ready to evolve and change and grow so that the outer world reflects my inner experience of my own reality of who I am and who I am being, right? We're a conduit of that. And we're creators of that. We create our reality. We create the world around us. It doesn't happen to us, but rather your frequency and your vibration permeates out. And when you're in business, it will definitely give you moments to see that if you want to be open to it. If you're not open to it, good luck with that, I guess. But I'm offering maybe a different perception that not that there's anything wrong with you. Like if business is doing things that are giving you charges, ask, okay, where am I maybe showing up late in my life? Where am I maybe doing XYZ? And how can I shift my own perception of that? So then the outer world around me starts to reflect what I've created internally.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said humans are human. The humans will be human. I mean, and that's reality. And that's the thing with actually taking care of practice members is you want them to, fit into your schedule, your box, to behave the way that you want them to behave. And we all want that to a great degree and, to a certain degree, but at some point you have to realize, well, they're people and they're going to act like people, whether you like it or not, and helping them hit their potential as people from where they are, and that gap shifting is super important. So, what are some of the big lessons that you've learned from practice?
Wow, I should write a book on this. There's a book coming with that. I would say number one, to piggyback of what you were just saying, is because humans will human, not that we want to control them, we want to guide them, we want to be the leader in their life so they can tap into their own leader. It's important to have systems. And when something goes astray, when something goes wonky, that is an opportunity to create a system around it. And the more that you can systematize the flow, which I know it seems counterintuitive, but when you can, well, it's not counterintuitive, this is chiropractic, right? When you can create aligned systems and structures in your practice, things flow. You can be in the magic of the flow because you've created the systems and you've done the lower mental stuff, right? And I know that sometimes that it's like, but I want to be like just free flowing. Well, I'm telling you, that is going to create a lot of chaos if you're trying to run a business with multiple people, many practice members every day. So number one, do not fear the system. Let the system support you. And if you're the founder, you get to create it. And if you don't know where to start with systems, there's a lot of really great mentors in our profession. So that's number one. Number two is when you feel a lot of resistance coming up and maybe a lot of chaos, and you feel like you're going into that control mode, and maybe that's just me because I'm recovering perfectionist, recovering hyperachiever, the power of surrender and knowing that you are supported beyond just your physical reality. The universe is supporting you and the intelligence is supporting you. So if you feel when things get awry and get chaotic, instead of leaning into the control and trying to make it happen, there's probably something that's trying to happen through you to get you to surrender to maybe an idea or a way of being that you never would have imagined. So don't forget the power of surrender. That doesn't mean let go of everything and get all chaotic, but the power of surrender as an entrepreneur is huge, especially in moments that feel really chaotic. And number 3 is just, as you said earlier, keep learning as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, keep learning and keep coming at life with beginner's eyes, because that will keep you young, that will keep you fresh, that will allow you to keep evolving your brain to just look at life differently. And as much as it can be easy to get caught in our ways and the same habits, I'm inviting you to slightly challenge yourself to keep learning. Don't be afraid to go to Mile High every year, right? Go to different seminars, keep learning so that maybe you take one thing that you can shift in your practice that all of a sudden is the catalyst that you were looking for. So those would be, I say, my top things to share.
And I think relative to what you just said, you created a blueprint of some type for people relative to that.
Yes. We've got a lot of blueprints. Are you talking about my mental, emotional blueprint?
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I really love to help people with is helping you master your inner game when it comes to starting a practice, starting a business, being a leader. You're a human and you're going to have emotions. And if this blueprint can help you navigate that and feel more emotionally stable, your practice will benefit from that as well. Your team will benefit from that. So the more that you can become emotionally coherent, that's not to say that you can't have emotions, but emotionally coherent, the more the outer world will shift around you. So that blueprint is free. And I give that to a lot of people, my practice members, I give it to clients that I work with. So yeah, happy to share that.
And we'll put that in the link that goes along with this podcast, so people go back and to the email or to the post that goes along with this on our page. They will see that. So you talked about working with clients. What kind of clients do you work with, and how do you do that?
So I have chiropractic clients. I have clients who are small business owners outside of chiropractic. My brother and I do some online group coaching because my brother has successfully started his online practice. He's a health coach and a personal trainer. My brother actually really helped me grow Inspire Life, my first baby, really, really well. He's a phenomenal, master of systems. So him and I do group coaching for startup. So you don't have to be a chiropractor. I mean, I love working with chiropractors, but we work with a lot of people from a lot of different industries, mainly in the health and wellness industry. So we do that. And then I do more high-level coaching for people that is more your inner work. So yes, while I know business, while I know systems, while I know the strategies, that's great. I really shine and love helping your inner game. How is your consciousness, your emotional state, your well-being actually influencing all the parts of your life around you? So that's something I love to help people with on a one-on-one basis. And we do events, we do retreats, we do immersions, we do all the things. There's different ways of serving people and we enjoy it. We love it. So lots of ways to connect with me.
Great. And you, having been to multiple Mile High weekends, what do you love about being at Mile High?
Oh my gosh. I just love the energy there. There's such a wide variety of people. It's not just us network spinal people, you guys. There's so many different walks of chiropractic life. And I love that the content of the speakers, there's such a variety. This last one, Dr. Mo and Dr. Tamara were there, and Dr. Tamara, I stayed for her. She talked about death and I was sobbing. I was sobbing, and she connected our work to end of life stuff and celebrating. I mean, it was powerful. I had no idea that was going to come out of Mile High. So I just love that there's this evolution of content and constantly speaking on the cutting edge of what's happening in the world and tying it back to what we do as chiropractors and how we can make a greater impact in the world and actually be relevant, right? Not just be a commodity, but actually be a powerful living entity that has the power to influence people's lives. And I just love that it continues to stay relevant and the content from the speakers continues to stay relevant. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we do our best to really create an experience for people that is centered on our values and principles. So, and we're grateful that you're there nearly every year, if not every year. So, and so then looking more, what message would you want let's start with this. What message would you want to remind chiropractors? What's the last message you'd like to remind chiropractors? Then I'm going to ask you something else after that.
Everything you're seeking outside of you simultaneously lives within you. And have the courage to go within and discover it for yourself. And you'll discover a world of gems that you never knew was possible, but have the courage.
That's great. Now, what would you recommend students?
Well, same thing, number one. And know what you want. Know what you want in life. And what I mean by that is know what your values are. Know the type of life that you want to create outside of school, because it can be so easy to get caught up in how you think you should be, what you think you should do in practice, because there's a lot of mentors and a lot of people. Get really clear on what are your values and what is it that you want. Do you want to start a practice? Awesome. I'm here to tell you, not everyone is designed to start a practice, and that's okay. There's a lot of chiropractors out there looking for stellar rock star associates and team doctors. So know what you want first and foremost from a personal soul mission perspective, and then start the strategy.
And that's an important thing, is that not everyone has being a business owner within them. Not everyone will excel. Actually, some people can be managers of multiple businesses or multiple chiropractic offices as compared to an owner. And some people really want to be, working in a practice and associate. You have different gifts. So yep. I actually didn't have that point of view for quite a while. And then I realized that, and probably because I had a certain gift and I thought everybody had that gift. So I thought everybody had the same DNA as me. But at some point I realized that was not the case. I was kind of surprised. But
you mean everyone doesn't want to be the captain of the team, Danny? Like
no. I and everybody doesn't think like me. I was kind of, that was a, an awakening to realize that people thought differently than me. I don't know why that would be the case, but or do things differently than me. So, and I'm really grateful that Mile High has impacted your life to such a degree that you're impacting others on a bigger scale. That brings me a lot of joy and smile to my face and to my soul. So I'm grateful to see you doing that. And I really appreciate you being on this podcast. Is there a last thing you'd like to say to chiropractors and students around the world?
Thank you for the work you do, and thank you for showing up, and thank you for continuing to rise into your greatness. Don't forget that. In the days that feel challenging, the days that feel hard, just remember there's a gift within you, and don't be afraid to let it shine. So keep showing up.
Absolutely. And I'm also going to add to that, which is be at Mile High. So
that too,
because you marked yourself as going already, right? You've got it on your calendar for 2024, I'm sure.
Yes.
So, and everybody should. So, again, we'll put the links to connect with Dr. Mel in the notes with this, and she also has a nerve system masterclass, which is really pretty amazing. And so you want to check that out as well. And, September 26th, 29th is, you want to be at altitude of 5,280 feet on Mile High territory. I got to tell you, I remember you doing this yourself. Is make it a vacation. Like, Colorado is so beautiful. Spend at least an extra day. It's worth it. There's things to do, and do that with your team too. If you take them on a hike in Colorado or something like that, your team will appreciate that. That'll engage them more in your mission. And so, do that. So riseuptomilehigh.com. And Dr. Mel, thank you for continuing to change spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic.
Thank you.